Hey there, Dr. John DeGarmo here at the Foster Care Institute with tonight's Foster Talk with Dr. John. We are live, Foster Talk with Dr. John, answering your questions that you need as you care for children in foster care, adoption, kinship, parenting in general. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. So glad you're joining us tonight on this Tuesday night, March 2nd, 2020. It's been about a year now. We're coming up on a year anniversary of COVID and a year anniversary of doing this question and answer time. What we do, if you're brand new, what we do is we come together every Tuesday and Thursday night to answer the foster care, the adoption, the parenting, the kinship questions that you need, the struggle things that you're struggling with. We do it live every Tuesday, Thursday night, 7 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and we do it right here. So I'm so glad you joined us. Hey, I've been a foster parent myself to over 60 plus children who have come through my home. It has been the hardest thing I've ever done. It's also been the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I've had over 60 plus kids come through my home as a foster parent, as many as 11 in the house at the same time. I know that's crazy. I get it. But wow, what a life-changing experience it's been for me. Every child has made me a better person, and I bet the same thing for you too. So three rules, okay? Rule number one, hey, let your friends and family members know that you're here. Let me just clean this up a little bit here. Let your family members know that you're here, that they're foster parents, your fellow foster parents. Invite them to join us because here is the truth. No one understands a foster parent. Hey, Jennifer, glad you're here this tonight. Julia's here too. Glad you're here, Julia. Frank, hey, Frank. No one understands a foster parent lifestyle, and its unique lifestyle. No one understands what you do as a foster parent unless it's another foster parent. Foster parenting is a challenge. It can be difficult, to be sure. So we want to make sure that you invite those who are foster parenting to join us tonight. Rule number two, get those fingers flying. Anything you want to ask about foster care, adoption, kinship, parenting. You want to talk about my newest book coming out that we're working on. You want to hear what the latest new Foster Care Institute training webinar is going to be, the one that you voted on. You want to hear about what I'm working on with legislators right now about the tragic death of 2-year-old Melanie Vang in St. Paul, Minnesota. Whatever it may be, no question is off limits these next 30 minutes. Go ahead and ask. The third rule, my favorite rule. Hey, Lisa, glad you're here tonight. My rule, and maybe your favorite rule. Hey, Jennifer, glad you're here tonight. Jennifer, glad you're here. My favorite rule is this. If somebody asks a question tonight, if someone makes a statement tonight and you think, Dr. John, wait, Dr. John, wait, I can answer that. I've been there. I have done that. We want to hear from you. Always learning. I'm going to Kansas coming up to speak at an agency, maybe going to California too. Just got the phone with California. And I was still, let me just right here. Join us live on this page. Someone was asking about this here. And I found that, I found this to be true. That, no, when we come together as foster parents, we have to have our own support group. We have to have our own support group to come together. And that's where we learn. Yeah, I've written all the books. Sure, I got the doctorate in foster care. Yes, I've traveled the world working with foster care agencies. But I learn the most when I'm around people just like you. This is where I learn the most from. And I want to learn from you tonight as well. So if you can offer some insight about how you've experienced something, we want to hear from you. I want to say hello to Michael. See that Michael's here tonight with us. Hey, Susan's here tonight too. And this night, Rico's here. Hey, Rico. Tammy's here too. Hey, a lot of people joining us tonight. Glad you're here with us. So with that in mind, get your fingers flying. What is the number one thing right now that you are struggling with right now as a foster parent? What do you need help with? No questions off limit. And of course, no questions, dumb question, unless you already know the answer. Foster parenting is challenging. It is tough. I was telling an agency today in Arkansas, foster parents right now struggling with burnout. Oh, we're really burned out right now. These kids' anxiety levels are through the roof because of COVID. We know the anxiety levels that kids are going through the roof. We know they're struggling in school. We know they're struggling with Zoom visitations and Zoom school and distance learning. We know they're struggling with all that. And who suffers as well? Foster parents. Foster parents are struggling with these issues as well. Hey, Jennifer, glad you're here tonight with us. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Brad. Welcome, Brad. So is that something you're struggling with right now? Are you struggling with burnout? Are you struggling with, because a child just left your home and you're grieving, having issues with adoption right now? What is the number one thing right now that you need help with that we can help you with the next 30 minutes? We do it every Tuesday night, 7 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time right here, and I want to make sure we get your questions answered. Hey, tonight we're supposed to have, from California, my dear good friend, Rhonda Sciartino. She was going to join us tonight as a co-host, but she's unable to make it. So we're going to invite her back another time. Hopefully you joined us last month when we had co-host my dear friend, Jen Lilly from Hallmark Movies, and of course, Foster Adopted Movie. Jennifer says, I want to share. It is important for self-care. Jennifer, it is so important for self-care. Self-care for foster parents is essential. I write about it in so many books: the Foster Parent Survival Guide, the Foster Care Survival Guide, the Foster Parenting Manual, Faith in Foster Care, the Church in Foster Care, my own books. I've got webinars about it. Jennifer, you hit it right on the head there. Self-care for foster parents is absolutely, if you can't care for yourself, there's no way that you can care for these children who are in your home, who are demanding all of your time, demanding all of your attention, your love, your heart, who are sometimes dragging you crazy. If you can't care for yourself, you can't care for them. So I'm so glad that Jennifer mentioned that. Hey, Emily, glad you're here this tonight. Emily, welcome to Foster Talk with Dr. John. Emily asks us, is there a way to adopt a child without changing their birth certificate? I have heard many former foster youth speak out against altering original documents. Yes, Emily, there is a way to do that. Many times the birth certificates are changed. Many times it is not. Yes, you can do that, Emily. What I would encourage you to do, and I've adopted 3 children myself. We didn't change birth certificates, but we did change their names later on. And we also changed their hey, Rhonda, glad you're here tonight, Rhonda. We also changed their social security number. Now, Emily, if you do change something, I would strongly encourage you to change their social security number, okay? Because you don't know who else has it, okay? So I would encourage you to change that. That is a process, to be sure. And boy, I've been back and forth to the Social Security office to do that for some of my adoptions. But yes, you can change. To answer your question, you can adopt a child without changing a birth certificate. Just contact your attorney in your area. They can help you out with that. Emily, thank you for being here. Hey, Christina's here. Christina, welcome. Hey, before we go any further, the new edition of the Foster Care Institute newsletter came out this morning. Did you get it? I hope that you did. We talked about the 8 myths and the 8 truths about foster care. If you didn't get it, please type in I want newsletter, put your email address. I want newsletter, your email address, the Foster Care News of the Week, Foster Care Webinar of the Week, the Foster Care 101 video tips, motivational moment, and a whole lot more, right? So just type in I want newsletter, your email address. Emily says, thank you, my pleasure. All right, Christina says, what do you do about kids who harm themselves? Check out our new webinar, Self-Harm in Children Foster Care. My foster son, 6, ripped the stitches out of his eyelid today and banging his head against the floor. He's ADHD and he wants medicine to start wear off like he acts every night. And Christina, I'm going to encourage you to watch 2 webinars, okay? 2 webinars. You need to watch the webinar on self-harm and self-injury for children in foster care. It was our brand new one, Christina, brand new one. It came out last month in February. Watch that one. Also watch the one on anger management for children in foster care. And if he's doing this before he goes to sleep, you might also want to watch sleep anxieties. But certainly watch the one on self-harm and self-injury. Christina, I think your name's very familiar to me. I think you're a member of the Foster Care Institute already. If you're not, you need to join tonight because you get unlimited access to over 60 hours of training webinars, 12 free ebooks, printable certificates, CEUs, and more for a price you cannot beat. I promise you, $600 worth of webinars for less than $50. You cannot beat that price. So join up, watch those webinars, print out the certificates, learn what you need to learn, Christina, and get the hours you need as well. And Christina, again, I'm hoping you're already a member. Hey, Danny, glad you're here tonight. Actually, we'll get that newsletter tonight. Thank you for joining us. Jennifer, I will get that newsletter tonight as well. Christina says, thank you. My pleasure. All right, going on. So how do you change the Social Security number? Christina, this is something, I'm sorry, this is something I had to actually go to the agencies and ask them to do, the Social Security office. So you need to contact them I would just call them up, ask what type of documentation you need. You probably need their birth certificate. You probably need their forms of identification as well. So just call them up, ask them what you need, and then go and do it. It's going to take a while to do it. It's a process. I've been there several times, but it's something I would strongly encourage you to do. Right. Hey, this is Foster Talk with Dr. John. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, founder and director of the Foster Care Institute, answering your questions here with Foster Talk with Dr. John, 7 to 7:30 p.m. Want to make sure we get your questions answered because foster parenting is hard. It is hard. Hardest thing I've done, most rewarding thing I've done. Yeah, our new webinar comes out next week. We asked you yesterday to vote. It's not too late to vote. We asked you to vote on the newest webinar that will come out next week. Your three choices, I believe, were saying goodbye when a child leaves, emphatic listening, or fill in the blank. You choose. And right now, it's pretty close between emphatic listening and saying goodbye to children in foster care. I think saying goodbye is in first place by a few. It's not too late to vote. Go to this page here later on and vote. Okay, what are the questions you need here? What other things are you struggling with? Hey, Mike, glad you're here tonight. Tony, glad you're here tonight with us too. I see that Katie is here. Katie, welcome. Glad you're here with Foster Talk with Dr. John, where we answer your questions because foster parenting is a unique lifestyle. I say this over and over again to reporters, journalists, media, agencies, child welfare programs. My own family members don't understand what I do as a foster and adoptive parent. No one will understand your unique life. When you bring children to your home, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year, who are suffered from trauma and have anxiety, filled with anxiety. They don't know how to process it. They're upset, they're confused, they're scared, they're afraid, they're overwhelmed with emotions they can't process. And then you're home, hey, that is tough on you as well, on your family. So that's why we come together to give each other the support that we need and to answer your questions. All right, Jennifer's here. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome to Foster Talk with Dr. John. Do you need a lawyer to adopt a child that you have guardianship for over 9 years, but has had the child since birth? I did the guardianship by myself without a lawyer. Child was never put into the system. Jennifer, I think the best thing to do in this question is simply to just ask a lawyer. Ask a lawyer. You know, if you have guardianship, but you're not the parental figure and you want to adopt the child, you can adopt the child. Guardianship does not mean a parental. All right. If you're a guardian, you're not the legal parent, if you will, so to speak. Okay. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I strongly believe that a guardian does not necessarily mean adoption. So if you want the child to be part of your family forever and ever and ever legally, yeah, you adopt. All right. There are many children adoption lawyers who can help you with that. Okay. Appreciate you asking, Jennifer. Thank you for taking care of that child for over 9 years. Thank you for taking care of that child. I bet, Jennifer, that child's in a wonderful home. And Jennifer, if you do adopt, hey, put some pictures on this page so we can all celebrate the event, right? Hey, Mary Alice, we will get you that newsletter later tonight. Look for it later tonight. If you want the Foster Care Institute newsletter, type in I want newsletter, put your email address. This week we had the 8 myths and misconceptions about foster care and the truth, the foster care one-on-one video tip, the foster care webinar of the week, the motivational moment, and so much more. I want to make sure you get it. Elena's here. Elena, welcome to Foster Talk with Dr. John. She mentions the 3 biggest words for foster parenting: documentation, documentation, documentation. If you don't document as a foster parent, then you're not protecting yourself. All right. As a foster parent, you need to make sure you protect yourself. One of the webinars we have with the Foster Care Institute. Not a member? Why aren't you a member? You need to be a member. Over 60 hours of webinars. One of the webinars we have is rights and responsibilities of foster parents. Do you know your rights as a foster parent? Do you know your rights as a foster parent? If you don't, probably the webinar you should be watching tonight. Okay. Jennifer said, thank you. My pleasure. My good friend Danny here says, adopting out of foster care is usually less expensive, right? It is usually less expensive out of foster care. Absolutely right, Danny. Yes, when you adopt a child out of foster care, many of those really expensive fees do not apply. In fact, many times adoption attorneys have their heart filled for adopting out of foster care, and they'll waive the fee. They'll waive. Not that it's happen all the time, but I've heard of it happening time and time again. Indeed, it's happened to us, my family, 3 times as well. So that's something to certainly consider there. Bringing that up here. Appreciate you. Appreciate all that you do. Danny does some great work. Check out his book as well. Visit him at his website and as well as his. In fact, Danny, go ahead and put a link to your website up here so people can visit it and find out more about your book and the great work that you're doing. All right, we have about 15 more minutes left here. 15 more minutes left here with Foster Talk with Dr. John, answering your questions here, 7 to 7:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Thursday night. What is the number one thing right now? The number one thing that you are struggling with right now as a foster parent, that you're having say, Dr. John, I just can't do this. I need help with this. My biggest question is this. What is it? No questions, dumb question. We want to make sure we answer the question and want to make sure that we support you. Okay. Now, if you've had experience much like Jennifer, if you've adopted a child out of foster care, did you pay a fee for it? How many of you adopted? And if you have, let us know. Thanks, Danny. If you have, let us know. I'm going to say I have adopted 3 children. We want to hear from you. Okay. Elizabeth is here. Elizabeth, there goes my daughter Colby in her jammies. Elizabeth's here. Hey, well, Elizabeth, welcome to Foster Talk with Dr. John. Elizabeth says, what advice do you have on how to handle when an adopted child tells you they're having more memories of the bio family and abuse they faced? They're feeling very sad and empty inside. They told me yesterday I just provided an ear and supported them, trying to determine my next steps. Elizabeth, my biggest concern for you is this. You might experience something known as post-adoption depression syndrome. Post-adoption depression syndrome, 65% of adoptive mothers, much like you, Elizabeth, experience and suffer from post-adoption depression syndrome. Please make sure that you watch that webinar tonight, the Foster Care Institute, because you need support. This is going to be a hard time. It's going to be a hard time for you, Elizabeth. Not just because the child's feeling anxiety doesn't mean it's going to be hard for you. It's going to be hard for you as well. So what you do for the child, you allow this child to express it and to talk about it and to cry if they need to and to express themselves. You also might want to consider you're doing a good job of providing an ear and supporting them. You also might consider getting a professional therapist, a professional counselor. Now, I would want to know, how old is a child? How old is a child when the child came to you? When do you adopt the child? What age was the child adopted? And we all know here, if you've adopted, just because you've adopted a child does not make it happy ever after. Does not mean a big bow tied up afterwards. Adoption is a lot of post-adoption depression for the child and for the parents. So, Elizabeth, again, I would encourage you to watch the webinar here at the Foster Care Institute. Please watch it tonight. Post-adoption depression syndrome. You need to watch it, okay? And let the child know how much they're loved, how safe they are, how important they are to the family. It's okay to have those memories, okay? And to remind the child that adoption is a loss of their original family, and talk about their abuse, and consider getting a professional therapist as well. And always remind them how happy you are that they're part of your forever family and how much you love them. The twins were placed with us at 3.5 years old, and we adopted when they were 5. They turned 7. Okay, so 3.5 years of age. So there was a lot of abuse and trauma those children were experienced before they placed with you. And really not that much older. Really not that much older. They're going to have those memories. So let them know it's okay to talk about that. Let them know that it's okay to talk about that. And again, consider getting a therapist. You might also want to consider some forms of therapy that you can do in your house, like play therapy, like music therapy, like art therapy. You have animals, like animal therapy. Those in our webinars, Trauma Informed Parenting Part 1 and Trauma Informed Parenting Part 2. So those are 2 more webinars, Elizabeth, that I would encourage you to watch here at the Foster Care Institute. I know they're going to be very, very helpful for you. All right. Appreciate it. Hey, we got about 10 more minutes left here. 10 more minutes left here. Foster Talk with Dr. John, answering your questions, giving you the help you need. What do you need help with tonight? I've adopted 3 children from foster care, much like Elizabeth. I've had 4 failed adoptions. I'm very familiar with how adoption can go wonderfully right and how adoption can go so tragically wrong. And it's hard. It's hard. I've also been a foster parent myself to 60 plus kids. I understand how exhausting it is for you sometimes as a foster parent. How sometimes you feel like, I can't do this anymore. I'm worn out. Hey, Carly, glad you're here this tonight. Welcome. Hey, Lana, glad you're here. Heather's here tonight as well. A lot of people here tonight answering your questions. What do you need help with? Want to make sure that you get the help that you need right here during these next 10 minutes. So yeah, we're working on our brand new webinar here at the Foster Care Institute on, well, I told you about that earlier, and we'll hopefully make a decision in the next night or two which one we're going to have ready for you next week. All right, Jennifer is here. Hello, Jennifer. Foster Talk with Dr. John. Glad you're here with us tonight. Jennifer says, is it a 14-day notice that you need to give the social worker to make arrangements for a new placement? I have a child that is not respecting the home or adults in the home. Well, 14 days is generally the best thing to do, to be sure. It gives the caseworker plenty of time to find a suitable house, a stable house, a healthy home. Now, Jennifer, I'd want to learn a little bit more about how the child is not respecting the home or the adults in the home. You know, that happens a lot. It's happened to me several times. We have to remember this. And Jennifer, I'm sure you know this. We have to remember this. No child wants to be placed in foster care. It's not a happy thing for a child to be in a foster home. You know, it's embarrassing if they're older. Despite all the trauma and abuse they've experienced, your home is not their norm. You're not their family members. They want to go back to that norm. Their norm is abuse. Their norm is anxiety. Their norm is neglect for many of these children. And when they come to our home, they're confused, they're scared, they're afraid, they may feel guilty, they may be angry at the system, they may be angry at their birth parents, they may be angry at the caseworker, they may be angry at the situation, and so for some of these children, they take it out on you. It has nothing to do with you, Jennifer. Nothing to do with their disrespectful towards you and your family. It's nothing to do with you. It's all about how they're feeling. Again, they are filled with emotions they don't know how to process. They're overwhelmed with these feelings that they don't know how to control, if you will, and they are lashing out. But you asked about 14 days. Yes, I think that's the best thing to do to go 14 days. Jennifer, you also might want to look at the webinars. I'm going to give you a couple webinars, Jennifer, to look at here at the Foster Care Institute. If you're not a member, please sign up tonight. Get the membership tonight. You can't beat it. 60 hours plus of webinar training for a price you cannot beat, plus those 12 free ebooks. I would encourage you to watch Positive Parenting Solutions. I would encourage you to watch Trauma-Informed Parenting Part 2. I would encourage you to watch Anger Management, okay? And Rules and Expectations for Children in Foster Care. Those are 4 I would expect you to watch. I encourage you to watch those, Jennifer. Thank you for asking. All right, Angela's here. Foster Talk with Dr. John. Angela, welcome. Glad you're here with us tonight. Is there anything I can do to get services like behavioral health, therapy, intervention services faster? We are waiting for weeks to get insurance cards, and no one will begin services without cards. I've been there. I understand. Our foster son 4 and 7 are experiencing undue stress and additional heartache because of the inefficiency and broken slow system. I get it. I get it. No, there's probably nothing you can really do to speed it up and to get the services that you need. There may be some faith-based therapy intervention systems in your area that may help. Okay. Perhaps, your children are not in school. The 7-year-old, all right, the 7-year-old is in school. Okay, the 7-year-old might be able to get services in school. Many schools have a visiting therapist to come and help the children. What I would encourage you to watch is go to the Foster Care Institute, Angela, watch the webinars on Trauma-Informed Parenting Part 1 and 2. Watch the one on trauma and stress for children in foster care. Those are 3 webinars I would encourage you to watch that maybe give you some solutions that you can do in your house, some strategies, if you will, that you can apply in your own home to best help these children, all right? Angela, if you're not a member of the Foster Care Institute, please join so you can get all the training you need. Jennifer says, I'm not the one to give up on child. Good for you, Jennifer. I'm glad to hear that. He has been with us for a year. He's 15 years old. He's definitely had therapy and TBS services. Nothing is working. I've been fostering for 15 years, and I just can't help him. Jennifer, I get it. I understand. There 60 plus kids that come from my home. If you read my best-selling book, Love and Mayhem, and Jennifer, you know I've had to have, as well as Fostering Love, you know, we've had to have 2 children out of 60 kids that come to join our family. We had to have 2 children removed because of situations that were just difficult for everybody and harmful. So Jennifer, I know how hard a decision this is. I applaud you. Thank you for taking care of this 15-year-old. You know, at this time in his life, there's probably he might do better in a residential therapeutical home, right? He might do better in a residential or therapeutical home. So I understand. I know how hard of this decision is for you, and sometimes we feel guilty when we make these decisions. I did. Why did I ever, Jennifer? You read my book, Fostering Love. You know how hard it was for me to make that first decision to have a child removed. I had guilt for years. Boy, did I ever. So Jennifer, I'm going to encourage you, yes, 14 days notice for the caseworker so they can find a suitable environment. Let the caseworker know everything that's been challenging. Hopefully you've been documenting all this, Jennifer, like we talk about here at the Foster Care Institute in our webinars. Hopefully you've been documenting everything so you can share that documentation with the caseworker so they can know exactly what's been going on in the home, what you've done to address it, how the 15-year-old continues to refute what you're doing. All right. Jennifer, really appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Foster Talk with Dr. John. I'm your host, founder and director of the Foster Care Institute, leading foster care expert, answering your questions. A few more minutes here. We want to make sure we get your questions answered. What is the number one thing tonight, right now, this week, this month, this year, that's been the hardest part for foster parenting that you need help with? We want to make sure you get those answers tonight. We want to make sure you get the support services that you need tonight. Foster parenting is a different kind of lifestyle, and it's unique, so we want to make sure we surround you with people who understand what you're doing. Jennifer says, I document everything. Paper trail is so important. It is so important, Jennifer. It is absolutely so important. I agree. Absolutely agree. Jennifer, would you please watch this for me? Go to the Foster Care Institute. Watch the webinar on compassion fatigue. Watch the webinar on compassion fatigue. That's the webinar I want you to watch as soon as you can. All right? Because I understand exactly what you're going through. This is going to be hard. It's going to be hard when the child leaves. Yes, you'll feel a sense of relief, to be sure. But there's going to be other emotions as well for you. If you're not a member, Jennifer, sign up tonight. Get the webinars, get the training hours you need. You know, one of the best things about the Foster Care Institute is when you watch the webinars, you can print out the certificate with your name on it and date on it. My name's already on there, sign your name on it. And you get 1 hour training for every webinar you watch. You get all the training you need for this year and next year. Continues on. Jennifer says she's got it. Fantastic, Jennifer. Great. Great. So watch that webinar. I know you're going to appreciate it. All right. We can squeeze in one more question. One more question for you. What's the number one thing you need as a help as a foster parent or adoptive parent or a kinship parent? We want to hear from you. And hopefully you read today's newsletter. If you don't get the newsletter, type in I want foster care newsletter, your email address. We will get the newsletter to you tonight. The 8 myths and misconceptions about foster care. That was a great article that I put together. A lot of fun putting it together. And I want to make sure you read it. The webinars, the video tips, all that kind of thing. All right. So type that in there. We're about to, all right. Emily says she would like the newsletter. Great, Emily. We'll get that newsletter to you later tonight, very shortly. Appreciate you asking. Yes, as I said, you know, we've had as many as 11 kids in our house at the same time. At the same time. That's why I've got behind me all those books, because sometimes I've got to run away to something to escape. Hopefully you all have some type of escapism, whether it's working in the garden, whether it's binging a show, whether it is exercising, whether it is gardening, I love to do that, whether it's reading, whatever it might be. Hopefully you all have some type of something you can escape to kind of, give yourself a little bit of release. Jennifer says, where do I go for the webinar? Jennifer, I'm going to send you a link in a few minutes, okay? Give me a thumbs up if you understand this, or if you say understood or okay. I'm going to send you a link, Jennifer, in a few moments where you can sign up for the webinars. If you're not a member, sign up for the membership tonight and get all the training hours you need for this year, next year. I'm going to send you that link in a few moments, all right? And he says, youth who have trouble with boundaries, female 16-year-old, neurodiverse, Masturbation commons, rooms in it. To youth not having time together. Mediation. All right, so I see what you're saying here, Annie. But what is your question? You're giving me a statement there, but I'm not quite sure what the question is. All right, not quite sure what the question is. But what I see here, though, is looks like the child needs therapy. Child needs professional therapy that you can't handle. All right. But if you're going to give me more information about that, I'd love to help you here. All right, listen, we are out of time already. The time goes by so quickly when you guys join me. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for being part of this tonight. Thank you for being part of it. Cody says, hey, Dr. John, sorry I'm late. You all want to try the seminars. They have helped us so much with our kiddos. John, do I have a quick question for you if I get time in a bit? Cody, if you can squeeze it in the next 20 seconds before I sign off. You can do 20 seconds. I'll answer if you can sign up before I sign off, okay? So as Cody answers this question here, I'm going to sign off here by saying we do it every Tuesday and Thursday night right here at the Foster Care Institute. Hey, I sent a whole bunch of books to the state of, I think it was Florida, of the brand new book, The Little Book of Foster Care Wisdom, 365 Days of Foster Care Inspiration and Motivation for Today's Foster Parents. We have a lot of best-selling books for foster care. Go to the Foster Care Institute bookstore, get a copy. I'll send you a signed copy in the mail to you tomorrow. Kansas City, I'm coming to see you in April, working with you. Cody says, we are working on transitioning a name change for a 2-year-old placement. What is the best way to do this? A name change? Well, that's really kind of a personal question. You know, as a child, well, Cody, tell you what, join us Thursday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and ask then, and we'll put your question at the very, very top, okay? That's a good question. I appreciate you asking here. Okay, all right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, I'm so glad you've been with us tonight. This is Foster Talk with Dr. John. I will see you Thursday night right here, Foster Talk with Dr. John. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo. Thank you for caring for children in crisis. Thank you for changing the life for a child. See you Thursday.